Alright fam, today we are doing some deadlifts, but we're not just doing deadlifts, we've also got some shoulders, some front squats, and then legs. So it's a big day today and I want you guys to stay till the end, try and support my algorithm, try and watch all the way through if you can, because your boy is trying to be consistent with you. But more importantly, I want you guys to learn a lot from these videos. You can see how I lift and how I feel. But before we get started, this is a nice little warm-up here. We have 70 kilos. I'm just doing a few reps of this one, just getting it nice and warm. My form and technique when I'm warming up is never on point because I always start with something light. I go through all sorts of ranges to just get the muscles ready, So I don't have to have perfect form and technique because I want my body to move. I also get some little dynamic stretching in as well too where I can to get me ready for this movement. And deadlifts is a big one today. Today I was supposed to be lifting 216 kilos, but I went up to 220, which is closer to a 340 kilo deadlift by the end of my programming. And why not when you're feeling good? I had a good sleep last night, and I was like, well, look, the days that you're feeling good, go hard while you can. So I was like, I'm gonna go a little bit over my programming. So this is my second warm-up here, and it is 120 kilos and just a few reps in, starting to get heavy. So knowing that I've got 220 kilos, which I know generally even that is not that heavy for me, I'm not doing a big warm-up with this one. One of the things with squats, I always have a bigger warm-up. With deadlifts, I don't. It's one of those things. And as the weeks go by, you guys are going to start to see when the weights get even heavier, my warm-ups for squats is going to increase even more. Sometimes I'm going to have like 10 warm-ups before my working sets. So onto our first working set here, 220 kilos. Now, what you can see here is my hip extension is kind of lacking a little bit here. So my lockout is also lacking. And this always seems to happen to me when I first start my first working set, because I'm like, my cardiovascular system, my whole body is not used to this big movement, okay? And then as we go on, it changes. I start to focus on my form and technique. See me stomping the ground. The reason why I stomp the ground is to focus on making sure my heels are pushing through the ground, pushing my knees out, taking the deep breath in, and trying to straighten my hands up as well too. Now, even so, with that, you can see a little bit of a lean slide forward. So like that slight lean forward is throwing my center of gravity off. Now, when we do a deadlift, what we want to focus on is to keep our center of gravity further back, because we are using our posterior chain muscles. And in short form, our posterior chain is the muscles from the back, okay? So we're using our glutes, our hamstrings, our lower back, our upper back as well too. So what I'm doing wrong here is the fact that I've got a full lean forward. In the sumo deadlift, you can be a lot more upright. Look, understandable in a conventional deadlift if you're a little bit forward, that's okay. But in the sumo deadlift, I can be a little bit more upright. So I didn't correct my form and technique here as much. The platform is one thing that always annoys me, is when the platform isn't balanced and there's some sort of movement on there. So whenever the weight comes down, it moves a little bit, and I kind of have to reset it a bit because I don't want to get injured at the same time too. And I want you guys to always be careful when you deadlift, and no matter what, when you come down for a deadlift, always make sure there's a little bit more balance in the weight. Now, over here was pretty cool actually. So I started to slow down my form and technique a little bit and just kind of control the lifts and feel everything work. And now I found, because when I first started lifting, I used to just go in for full power. I didn't used to really focus on the muscles being worked. And over time, one of the things I noticed, apart from going for my 1 rep maxes, especially my working sets, was whenever I actually slowed down and actually went straight in and focused on my form and technique, my movement started becoming a lot smoother. Look at that. That's much smoother. I mean, I would like a little bit more of a lockout here. From this angle, it doesn't show that much of a lockout. I'll probably like a little bit more of a lockout here, but I'll take this for the team right now and say, look, I'm still happy with that. It was a rough day. It was a very, very rough one. I thought I could go in and go a little bit heavier, but it wasn't like it was excruciatingly hard. Like, it wasn't like it was, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Like squats day, as you guys would have seen yesterday, was hell. That was actual hell. I was struggling to a point where my depth was actual lacking, you know. This is something deadlifts I always find a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more easy. Now, one of the things that happened here as well too was grip strength. So I'm doing a double overhand grip. As you guys know, is probably the weakest grip in your deadlift, okay? And this here is a game changer because into these sets, these are basically my paused reps. I pause for a bit and stop, pause for a bit and stop. The whole purpose of this movement is so I can actually basically work on my hip extension. So very explosive with my hip extension. So it's hard for us to actually get our hip extension from the bottom of the ground. So you guys would notice that if I told you to start your deadlift by hip thrusting, it's very hard. But ideally, if you do start your deadlift by hip thrusting, according to biomechanics, with the joint that moves first, which is going to take most of the load, if you hip extend first, generally most of the load should be onto your glutes, which is good because your glutes is a big muscle group and can take a lot. That also makes you stronger. Ideally, right from the ground, it is hard for us to basically start with our glute movement. That's why when you elevate your deadlifts with plates, it's a lot easier. Okay, so the whole purpose of this movement over here is to help us get a little bit more explosive with our hip extension movement, which is ideally, I call this a vertical hip thrust. I literally call a sumo deadlift a vertical hip thrust with wider stance. That's all. So over here, you can see me being able to actually open up my hips a little bit more, keeping my chest up. But if I want you guys to pick out what is lacking here, is my deltoid retraction is lacking a little bit there. So I wasn't using much of my upper back there, which was a little bit of a problem. Now, when we drop the weight here, we dropped it to about 40% of my max. So much easier weight. This is 140 kilos. Quite easy for me. Almost 100 kilos less than what I was lifting before. Great because I've just completed about 6 sets working. So I should be fatigued now. But now my whole focus was on that glute burner. And for those of you that really want to work on your glute or hip thrust, or basically hip extension movement. Look at that dance over there. This is a great exercise to do. You can do a lighter weight and then go explosive from your glutes. Make sure you're pushing through your heels. Make sure your center of gravity is back, or else you're going to be locking out your quads a lot more. So this is very important and something for you guys to really, really think about while you do. Okay. Hold that weight and extend. Once you hold that weight, pick up the weight, hold it for a few seconds or a second or two, and then focus on that hip thrust movement. Okay, that is what's more important. It's not you just holding it. Now your core has to be super switched on for that too while you do that. All right, we're moving on to our next exercise now. This was a little bit of a warm up here. Very, very light weight for this one to start with, and we are doing some shoulder presses. Now, if you guys watching my last video, I said to you that I've got a bit of shoulder nibble, so I wasn't actually sure how much I'll be able to lift on this. Last week I went a little bit heavier on our presses. This is only 60 kilos to start with. Very nice and easy, very nice and simple. Slightly in back, but not too much. My lower back was starting to feel a little bit tender after the deadlifts. After doing that many sets on deadlifts, you start to feel it over time. So that was pretty good. I felt very comfortable with this weight. My press movements, I feel like are also getting better. And that's probably another reason why I haven't stopped all press movements, even though my shoulder is still hurting. So got my wrist straps on from KESX, and then I decided to just try the 70 for my last set. Pump out a few reps and see how I feel with this. And you know what? This was actually pretty good. This was very comfortable. My shoulders were feeling perfect for it. So I reckon next week I'm definitely going to go heavier with this one. So that was a good little tester. Next up, we are still working our legs. We've done a lot of antagonist muscles. So we've been working a lot more from the posterior chain, which is the back of your leg. So it was time to also get a little bit of balance, work on some of those opposite muscles. So some leg extensions was thrown into this machine. This machine is absolutely amazing for leg extensions. It is actually very hard to control the eccentric part of the movement. So I kind of focused on the explosive side because we've been working a lot on the explosive side from our posterior chain muscles. So rather than going all the way up and then controlling it down, I kind of threw all my pressure off of the eccentric or the negative part. So I kind of like let go in the negative part and focus just on the eccentric part. on that concentric part. Now on the concentric part, which is coming up for just for reference, when I come up to the top, I give it a little bit of a squeeze so I can really feel those quads work. Okay, now even those isometric holds at the top makes that much of a difference, especially working fully and solely with high volume on our antagonist muscles, which is our back muscles. We need a little bit of balance. So if I didn't do any quad work today, I'll feel a little bit weird. So over here, volumizing a bit of quad work, that worked really, really well for me, and just allows me to give my quads a little bit of work, and just throwing a little bit of balance in there. That's, I guess, the whole purpose of this exercise over here today. So just getting that little bit of balance in, getting that squeeze in our quads, getting those quads activated as well. So of course, when you lock out for a deadlift, you do feel your quads a little bit, but it's not as much. Everything is more posterior chain focused. And to finish off, gotta get those hamstrings in and feel every little bit of it. And that's the thing that I love about this machine as well too. In this machine, the concentric part where you're actually going down, which is a reverse. So whenever you go into your posterior chain muscles, most of your exercises are reversed. So your concentric, you actually go down. And your eccentric or negative, you usually come up. So that's what the hamstring curl is really, really good for in this instance. I try to slow down my concentric and eccentric part of it, just getting it, or even sometimes getting a bit of a squeeze in there, get that squeeze in there, feeling those muscles work. And if you see me right now, I'm just super focused, and the reason why I'm just focused in there is because I really want to get my mind to muscle connection working and very, very tight, especially whenever you work any sort of posterior chain muscle, you need to have that mind muscle connection there. Boom, that's a nice little flex to finish off. Now I just want to say a big thank you to every single person that has been keeping up to date with my stuff as well too. Thank you for everyone that has been donating. Massive shout out to Graph Language again, another one of my biggest donators in my last live stream, and I'm always gonna shout you guys out, and everyone that's been dropping comments to boost the algo a little bit as well too, and help me get my content out there. You guys are the real MVP. Yeah, thank you YouTube, and yeah, I hope you guys promote this so you guys can see a little bit more of an insight to my life, but not just an insight to my life, to learn more. Thank you again. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Your boy is out. Peace.